Hello and welcome to Everyday Tarot, your daily dive into the divine wisdom of the tarot. I'm your host, Camille A. Saunders, healer, tarot enthusiast, and your local witch next door. And today I'm talking about tarot and astrology. Whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or just starting to explore, this podcast offers daily insights, intuitive messages, and practical advice drawn from the cards. Each episode is designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom, find clarity in your decisions, and tap into the energy of the universe. Tune in every day, Monday through Friday, for fresh perspectives and empowering guidance from the tarot as interpreted by me. This Friday, June 20th at 5 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, I'm hosting a virtual tarot card creation event for free. If things are feeling hard right now, maybe you could benefit from an hour dedicated to channeling your feelings into something creative. I'll give you a list of recommended supplies, we'll meet online, and I'll walk you through the magical process of creating your own cards. No tarot experience is necessary, and please feel free to sign up. In the show notes. There will be a link, and you can always go to my website and to the podcast page to find any of the links I talk about in the show. If you love the show, the best way to support it is by listening daily, leaving a review, and subscribing or following in your favorite podcast app. If you want to support the podcast monetarily, I just updated the Patreon benefits to be bigger and better than ever. I'll be hosting live episodes every new moon to do a new moon collective tarot reading. If you join the lovers level of the lovers of the podcast level on the Patreon, you'll get access to an exclusive Discord to chat with me during the live stream and other listeners, and I will pull a card for each one of my patrons in addition to the new moon collective spread. So with this new thing, again, I'll be doing a collective spread every new moon. It will be live streamed, hopefully on video for everyone. And then if you're a Patreon, you will get an individual card pulled for you after the collective spread live. So I'll sort of say like shout out to insert your name here. This card's for you, and I'll pull one for everyone on my Patreons. And then if you'd like to support the podcast even further, you can get a one-time individual 5-card reading, in addition to all the other benefits if you join the Witch Bitch level on the Patreon. And links for that are also in the show notes. If you're local to the greater Puget Sound area, you can check out my Let's Talk Tarot meetup group for the latest event postings if you want to see me in person. If you're interested in my free PDF with the 2025 5-card tarot spread created just for you at the beginning of this year, you can get that by joining my newsletter list. My weekly newsletter always has the most up-to-date information on upcoming events, presentations, musings, and more. And if you don't already know, I'm a sex and relationships therapist, seeing clients virtually all over Washington State. I love working with queer, poly, and witchy clients. If you'd like to work with a therapist that doesn't judge you, is witchy just like you, and helps you learn how to deal with anxiety, chronic pain or illness, communication issues, self-advocacy, and sex, head to my website and book a free consultation now to start your journey. You can find the links for any of these offers in the show notes or on my website, like I said, CamilleASaunders.com/everydaytarot, in addition to the images of the cards I pull on each episode. All right, so welcome to season 10. I can't believe it. I've already done 10 seasons, or well, I'm going into 10. I've done 9 seasons. Each season has mostly 13 episodes. But the ones that have suits are 14 because there's 14 cards in each suit. So if you haven't listened to my other seasons yet, you can check those out. In season 1, I talked tarot basics. In seasons 2 and 3, I went through the major arcana and the 4 suits. Season 4 talked about tarot and pop culture. In season 5, I went through 13 common tarot spreads. And then season 6, 7, 8, and 9 were the Suit of Wands, Pentacles, Swords, and Cups. So I just wrapped those up. And today we're starting season 10, where I'm talking all about tarot and witchcraft. So today I'm talking about tarot and astrology, but I have lots more planned for this season about how tarot interacts with all these other aspects of witchcraft. So an overview of this episode. So we'll be talking about what is astrology, if maybe you know about tarot, but not so much about astrology. We'll be talking about how it corresponds with tarot. I'll be giving some examples of tarot cards and their astrological correspondences. And then I'll give you an example of a tarot spread that you can do to just sort of start to explore tarot and astrology today. All right, so I have the book Tarot and Astrology, Enhance Your Readings with the Wisdom of the Zodiac by Corrine Kenner. I've been using it as a reference in all of like the Suits seasons that I did to talk about each card's individual correspondence. So if you do pull a specific card, you can check out some of my earlier seasons and go find the one that corresponds to the card you're talking about in each suit. And I'll give you what the astrological correspondence is in there from this book. But today we're just going to sort of talk generally. And then, like I said, I'll give you an example of a spread you can do to just start to dabble with tarot and astrology and starting to think about these correspondences. So I'm going to be mostly referencing this tarot and astrology book since that's what this whole episode is about. And obviously this whole book is about that interwovenness of tarot and the science of astrology. So yeah, if you like what I'm talking about today, you can check out this book. It's been a really fun one to get into and has helped me learn a bit more. So I'm going to be reading from the introduction, the overview, and then we're going to talk astrology in action, where we're going to do a sample reading. So it says, let's see here. So yeah, in the history of tarot and astrology, it says if you could travel back in time 6,000 years to a towering, multi-tiered ziggurat in Babylonia, you could stare transfixed at the planets and stars alongside a Chaldean astrologer. If you could travel back 600 years to the Italian villas where tarot was first introduced, you could play cards at night, and you could hold the power of a gilded sun and a silver moon in the palm of your hand. Either way, you would be working with the same archetypal imagery and symbolism that people have been studying since the dawn of time. Tarot and astrology have always been connected. The earliest tarot decks depicted the sun, the moon, and the star alongside gods with cosmic connections like Jupiter, Saturn, and Venus. Tarot's more scholarly association with astrology, however, is more recent. In 1785, the French occultist Jean-Baptiste Alliot devised a full-fledged set of correspondences between astrology and tarot. And as time passed, other mystics and philosophers began to notice an intriguing number of similarities between the structure of the tarot deck, the Hebrew alphabet, and the Kabbalah, a form of Jewish mysticism. In each case, astrological correlations ran a silver thread through all of their compositions. And so for the dawn of modern tarot and astrology, so modern tarot was born in the late 1800s. It says when a London group of mystics and philosophers founded the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Together, they attempted to unify several branches of metaphysics, including astrology, numerology, and the Kabbalah, and they consolidated their theories in a deck of tarot cards. The group's tarot manual, MacGregor Mather's Book T, described the cards as astrological, Kabbalistic, elemental, and spiritual attributes. The guide also included a method for associating all 78 cards with the zodiac. In 1909, Arthur Edward Waite and Pamela Coleman Smith designed their own version of the Golden Dawn tarot deck. The result, popularly known as the Rider-Waite Tarot, is the best-selling tarot deck in the world. In 1943, Aleister Crowley and Lady Frida Harris also created their own version, the Thoth deck. They too used Golden Dawn attributions for most of their astrological correspondences. Today, many tarot artists and deck designers base their work on the Golden Dawn designs, which means that ancient astrology is finding its way into contemporary tarot cards as well. So the book that I'm reading from, Tarot and Astrology, is illustrated with the Wizard's Tarot, a deck by the author and artist John Blumen. It was designed with astrology in mind, and since it pictures teachers and students at a school of mystery and magic, it makes an excellent teaching guide for the marriage of astrology and tarot. So again, if you kind of like what you hear in this book, you're interested in learning more about tarot and astrology, you could check out the author and the artist John Blumen's Wizard's Tarot to get a fuller picture as well. And then I'm going to talk about one of the decks I have that does have the astrological correspondences in it for some of the cards. So again, if you want to check out this guide, it's Tarot and Astrology, Enhance Your Readings with the Wisdom of the Zodiac by Corinne Kenner. And they talk about how to combine tarot and astrology, starting with the basics, then sort of going into like each card correspondences, and then like into full-fledged readings. It says tarot and astrology isn't devoted only to theory, it also includes practical spreads and techniques. So all based on standard astrological and tarot practices. And yeah, it says if you're going to start to explore tarot astrology, you at least need a deck of tarot cards and an access to like your birth charts or horoscope charts. You can order custom charts like that from astrologers or metaphysical shops often. You can create your own charts, sometimes online or with specialized software. Right now, you can often just Google like birth chart or again like horoscope charts. You can also go to the author's website, CorinneKenner.com, with 2 R's and 2 N's, and Corinne and Kenner for up-to-date suggestions and recommendations. So I'll also link to the author's website as well. Putting that in my notes. So that you all can find that as well. Okay, so I'm going to give kind of an overview, again, like from this book, and it goes through all the major arcana cards and their correspondences. So we'll talk through that. And then, again, I'll give you a small tarot spread where you can kind of practice getting to know these. And I'll talk a little bit about the deck that I have that does have some of the correspondences. So an overview here. So again, as we survey the starry landscape that unites tarot and astrology, we'll start with simple relationships and move towards a more comprehensive description of the two subjects. So we're going to have correspondences, and then the author sort of is setting up the book here of going through other things. But the most recognizable correspondences between tarot and astrology occur in the tarot's major arcana, the first 21 cards of the deck, which dovetail almost perfectly with the planets and signs of astrology. And then we'll look at some of those connections. So we're going to start again at the beginning of the major arcana and go through to the end through all 21 cards. And I'll tell you sort of their correspondences here. Sometimes it's with specific planets, and sometimes it is with a specific zodiac sign. So that's kind of interesting. So we'll start with the Fool, the first card in the major arcana, or the 0 card actually as it's numbered. Usually decks start with a Magician as the number 1, like numbered card. So for the Fool, it says, who doesn't care what society thinks is assigned to Uranus, the planet of rebellion and revolution. The Magician, the master of banter and fast talk, is assigned to Mercury, the planet of speed and communication. You'll often see him pointing heavenward, conveying messages from the heavens above to the earth below. The High Priestess, the archetypal psychic, is assigned to the Moon, the luminous orb of reflection and intuition, and most depictions of the High Priestess include lunar imagery. The Empress, wife and mother, is assigned to Venus, the planet of love and attraction. You can find the astrological glyph for Venus in many renditions of the card. The Emperor, master and commander, is assigned to Aries, the sign of leadership. Look for images of the Aries ram on your Emperor card. The Hierophant, the keeper of tradition, is assigned to Taurus, the sign of stability, luxury, and pleasure. Some Hierophant cards feature Taurus glyphs and symbolism. In the Lover's card, who think and speak as one, they are assigned to Gemini, the sign of thought and communication. The lovers themselves are twin souls with their arms and hearts entwined. The Chariot, the protected home on wheels, is assigned to Cancer, the sign of motherhood, home, and family life. Cancer's crab carries his home on his back. Strength, the master of gentle force and control, is assigned to Leo, the sign of lioness, courage, and heart. The Hermit, the quiet leader, is assigned to Virgo, the sign of responsibility and dedicated service to others. The Wheel of Fortune is assigned to Jupiter, the expansive planet of luck and burgeoning growth. Justice, the model of fairness and equanimity, is assigned to Libra, the sign of equality and social grace. Libra is often represented by a balanced set of scales. The Hanged Man, suspended in an alternate reality, is assigned to Neptune, the planet of mysticism and illusion. The glyph, King Neptune's trident, symbolizes a watery world that exists alongside our own earthly reality. Death, the ruler of the underworld, is assigned to Scorpio, the sign of sex, death, transformation, and other people's money. The scorpion associated with the sign has a deadly sting. Temperance, who straddles a divide between two worlds, is assigned to Sagittarius, the sign of long-distance travel, philosophy, and higher education. The Sagittarian archer, half horse, half man, also combines two widely different experiences, while his arrow soars across long distances on its way to new horizons. The devil, the embodiment of physical and material temptation, is assigned to Capricorn, the sign of business, career success, and worldly status. The mountain climbing goat associated with the sign bears a striking resemblance to some depictions of the devil himself. The tower, perpetually guarded and under attack, is assigned to Mars, the planet of energy, war, aggression, and assertiveness. The astrological glyph associated with Mars is a shield and a spear. The star, a glimmering light of hope and inspiration, is assigned to Aquarius, the airy sign of social groups and futuristic thinking. The moon, which rules the night, is assigned to Pisces, the sign of the mystical and the subconscious. The Pisces fish swim in the reflecting pond that's pictured in most versions of the card. The sun, the sustainer of life, naturally corresponds with the sun, the source of energy and enlightenment. Judgment, a last call for awareness, understanding, and acceptance, is assigned to Pluto, the planet of death, resurrection, and unavoidable change. And the world, our earthly home, is assigned to Saturn, the ringed planet of boundaries, limitations, restrictions, and structure. All right, so one of the easiest tarot and astrology readings you can try is a simple comparison between the two cards that represent your sun sign. So first, pull the sun card itself from your tarot deck. So pause right here if you need to go grab your tarot deck or grab whatever is accessible to you and pull. So you're going to find the sun card first, right, which is just one of the major arcana cards. And then you're going to pull the card that corresponds to its sign. So you're going to find what major arcana card corresponds to your sun sign. So, right, when if you don't know, you can go to your birth chart, look it up online. You have to know your date of birth, the time you were born, and the location, like the city of where you were born. So you can know where astrologically all of the planets and asteroids and everything were in like space and time when you were born. And then, so for me, for example, so I'll go find the sun card, and then I'm an Aquarius. I was born in February. And so I know that the card that corresponds with my sun sign, Aquarius, is the star card. So if you don't remember, you can pause and then rewind to all the major arcana cards that I went through. So it will have every sign in there, and then it also has, right, planets in there separately. So yeah, like I said, so my example would be I was born February 18th when the sun was in Aquarius. That means my sun card is paired with the star, the card that corresponds to the sign of Aquarius. So I'm going to go grab my cards right now and look at those different things there. All right, so I've gone through my deck and I found, so I'm right now using the Goddess of Love Tarot deck by Gabrielle Herstick and illustrated by Julie Popescu. This is the only deck I have that explicitly talks about the astrological correspondences to the tarot cards within the deck and the deck guidebook. And I know that Gabrielle Herstick is Jewish, so knows the Hebrew alphabet, and then also has studied the Kabbalah, the form of Jewish mysticism. So when I look at her deck, it does not surprise me that it is like that she talks about all those aspects within the cards themselves. All right, so I pulled my sun card and then out of this deck, and then like I said, I'm an Aquarius zodiac sign, or that is my sun sign, which again is usually the first sign that people talk about in your birth chart. And so that for me is the star card, and the star, right, again, to remind you, is talking about hope, right? It's glimmering. If we think of like a literal star, right? It's shining, it's bright, but it's way out there, right? Like, again, we have the sun in our solar system that's very bright and is a star. It's just a lot closer and burns very bright, right? Which keeps us all alive and happy and warm most of the time. And whereas stars generally are often right much further away. And this is assigned to Aquarius, so the Aries sign of social groups and futuristic thinking. And I know in one of my decks, the star, trying to think which deck it's in, maybe the Sacervito Tarot deck by Sassy Burrington. The star is like an astronaut and floating out in space. So there is this sort of like futuristic, like we're going to space, like we're out here in the literal stars aspect of it. And this card that I'm looking at right now, there's like stars floating down the sides. And then I'm going to look in the tarot deck guidebook because, like I said, I know she talks about the correspondences. So again, I'll look in here. So for the sun card, the goddess that is depicted in this card is Sekhmet, and the astrological correspondence is, of course, the sun, because the sun is in astrology as well. And so, right, it's about passion, it's rebirth and illumination. The sun represents a new eon. Again, it's associated in this deck with the Egyptian goddess Sekhmet, the lion-headed goddess of lust, blood, and divine rage. Goddess, let's see, what else? So Sekhmet is also the goddess of healing, embodying the duality of the sun. Right, the sun can like fuel us and then also burn really bright, right? And you can get sunburned if you're like me and fair skinned and get freckles and stuff. So again, that's sort of the sun card. And then when I look at the star, which is a little bit, let's see, very close actually to, it's just two cards previously in the major arcana. And so again, in here it says the star, the goddess is associated with it is Inanna or Inanna, and the astrological correspondence in here is stated as Aquarius. So again, she writes it in the deck guidebook specifically. Most of my decks don't do that. Sometimes they'll talk about in the actual description, perhaps the correspondence or what they associate the card with astrologically or with like a god or goddess. But it's not necessarily as like clear cut as is talked about in this book, where right the Hermetic order and the Golden Dawn like decided these correspondences or what they cross reference these different metaphysical practices and sort of distilled down what they saw as the correspondences in this. So again, if you look at your star card, often there's literal stars there. Often there's like someone pouring water from like a chalice or a jug like into something else, like a stream. I'm definitely like, so despite the fact that Aquarius is not a water sign and Aquarius is an air sign, there is often this like wateriness associated with Aquarius. Again, Aquarius, the zodiac symbol, the glyph, is like three like waves, like three water, again, like sort of waves or like wiggles that depict water. So if you know your zodiac sun sign and you know what the glyph looks like also, which is just like right the symbol that's associated with it, that can also help you figure out what the correspondence is. Because like when I read through all the correspondences in here, there often is like a through line between what the glyph looks like god or goddess associated with it, the planetary correspondence, and like where it is in astrology with that tarot card. And so in here, like the star, again, it's way out there. If we think of a literal star, it's shining bright in its own place. It's kind of out of the box. It has this wateriness to it in the tarot, the card does, because it is often depicted as this like pouring something into something else. There's also often, like in this tarot deck guidebook, they talk about that it's associated with Inanna, who goes into the underworld and comes out transformed, which is sort of the traditional depiction of the goddess's journey. So the what am I trying to say? The major arcana is often said to depict, so the 21 cards at the beginning of the tarot deck is said to depict the hero's journey, which is often this like sort of male-centric point of view. Obviously, not all the cards are like treated that way, or they don't all have necessarily like that kind of energy, but it has this sort of flow to it. If you read a lot of fantasy books or fictional books, they often have this journey, right? We have the person at the beginning. They are orphaned. Everything is terrible. Then they get the task of the thing they have to do. They don't want to do the thing to save the world. And then someone comes along, their mentor, and tries to help them through it. They start progressing through the thing. They're learning. They're figuring things out. They have trials and tribulations. They have like a climax, like a war, they have to fight the thing. They have to kill Voldemort. They have to go to the underworld in this sort of scenario, and then kind of like come out the other end as a different person, right? Like this is also what's depicted with like Jesus's journey, or like when we have again like Harry Potter who dies and then comes back, like in the end to be sort of a different person. That is sort of depicted as the hero's journey. So in the goddess's journey, it is this like something happens, they have to descend into the underworld. They have to usually, again, do a trial and tribulation that has to happen there. Often it's terrible and sexual and like rape is what happens often in the goddess journey. And then they sort of like come out the other end. Like yeah, surrendering to their true nature, expressing things a certain way, or they become like, again, this sort of like goddess out the other side of like, they've been kind of, I was going to say hardened. I don't know if that's really what I want to say with it. But anyway, so they're sort of talking about this in the star description as well. And again, the star like also depicts like the cosmos. And again, I'm just talking about this because the star is the card that corresponds for me with my sun sign. So you also have other signs. Again, if you have your whole birth chart, you can go through all of these and think all about all of the different like zodiac signs that you have and where they are and what they correspond to, and do some like meaning making from them. I definitely am a big like thinker, believer. I don't necessarily want to go to space, but I like thinking about how do we change the world? How do we view things from a faraway perspective and not get so tied down to tradition or how things look right now? And I would say those are all very like Aquarius and like things associated with the star here. And so that's one way. I also pulled my other two so my moon and my rising zodiac sign cards by using, again, the thing that I read earlier in the episode where I went through all the major arcana cards. So sort of this like, again, distilled down version of what was sort of decided upon by the Golden Dawn at the time. And my other two are, so I'm a sun, my Aquarius is my sun sign, I'm a Virgo moon, and a Cancer rising. And the other two cards for me, which I had not made the connection before, so this is very fun for me, is the Hermit is the Virgo card and the Chariot is the Cancer card. And these are like my two favorite major arcana cards, I would say. I love the Chariot card, and I never really understood why. And now I'm like, oh, is this like my Cancer rising showing up? Interesting. And I also love the Hermit card. Like that one I've loved for a long time. I feel like I definitely love like learning. I like can like benefit from kind of going into my isolation and studying. Hello, I do a podcast where I sit in my office and I just read and research and then I get to talk all about it. Hello, that's very hermity and very Virgo of me. Um, Also, I will put the images of these cards like associated with this episode on my website so you can look at them. But funnily enough, in this Hermit card, there is a moon. And so it's just kind of funny that that's like associated with my moon card. I'm trying to think also like Virgo. Let me go back and see what she says about Virgo. The sign of responsibility and dedicated service to others, a quiet leader. And I definitely associate with like the quiet leader aspect. I was definitely never the person in a group to want to, that was like, hand raised, pick me as leader. Like that's not me. But I am like, oh, if no one else is going to do it, or okay, well, someone's gonna again, like okay, if no one else is going to show up, like okay, I can step into that role. I'm not going to fight someone for it. I don't have interest in that, but I will sort of happily take it on and help lead. And I would say that's very much like when I do my Let's Talk Tarot meetup group or some other ways that I show up in my like networking group that I have, Connect to Thrive. I definitely show up as like a quiet leader in those ways too, where I like to organize things like a Virgo. I love to have some structure, pick the dates, have like a loose, like we're going to talk about this thing, we're going to craft tarot cards, we're going to socialize and talk. And then when I get there, I'm very like, all right, like what does everyone want to do? Like what do we want to talk about? Where I'm very happy to like give over the reins to other people or just to sort of be very collaborative. And that feels very like Virgo and also like sort of hermity to me. Like again, the Hermit card, when we think of like what a hermit is, sometimes our mind just goes to like, oh, they just want to live in the woods, which like I do just want to live in the woods. But I also like the idea of the hermit is that you study again, you leave society or you leave your comfort zone. You go to a place, you go to school, you go to the woods, you go to a monastery, you go to these places and you really like learn what it is you need to learn, whether again that's like physical skills, mental, emotional skills, and then you come back and you integrate those skills. You bring that knowledge back into society or back into your world or back into a business or whatever you want, back into the schools to teach or things like that. So you have to think about that aspect of the card too, of like, okay, like I went to grad school, I studied, like I'm still in my like not even fully licensed as a therapist yet, even though it's been like 6 years since I first started school for grad school. Like that's a very hermit journey, right? It's like, okay, I went to school for 2.5 years of schooling and intensity and internship and all these things. And then I had, 2.5 years after it of like, okay, now I have to get all my hours. I have to see these type of clients. I have to track it all. I have to be in supervision. I have to learn and be in, take continuing education and be supervised. And then when I'm finally like through that, hopefully at the end of 2025, this year, I will get to submit all my hours and all my learning, and I've taken my exam and I've done all the things, and I can get fully certified as a licensed marriage and family therapist, my full license, and also hopefully I'm hoping to concurrently get to apply to be a certified sex therapist. So that's me right now. So yeah, that just feels very, very like Virgo Hermit. And then my final one, like I said, my Cancer is my rising sign. And Cancer is the little crab. You see this, like the little glyph of it or the sign. That's the zodiac correspondence. Obviously, crabs, they're watery. They live in the ocean, but also they will pinch you. So that's very like Cancerian. um, and so the Cancer is associated with the Chariot, which I really think of the Chariot as like boldly going forward, right? If you think of like a literal, like horse-drawn chariot, like a horse-drawn thing, they're like blazing through. Usually in war, is when like we think of chariots, like in Roman times. Is really what I sort of think of. But it says, yeah, the Chariot, the protected home on wheels, is assigned to Cancer, the sign of motherhood, home, and family life. Because Cancer, the crab, carries his home on his back. So there also is this aspect of, right, there's the wateriness, there's this sort of like nurturing, but also that you're taking your like comfort in your home with you all the time. And I love my home. I love being on my property and at my house. And it's got to be real good if I'm going to leave. I used to really, I mean, I love to travel still, but I used to really travel as like escapism. Like I didn't want to be at home. I didn't enjoy it. I wanted to go out and do things out of the house. And now, um, in the last sort of 5 to maybe even longer years, 5 to 8 years, I really enjoyed being in my home and creating a home that I like to be in that is a sanctuary so that I can like, and then when I leave, I still like, it feels very good to come back home again, like to my comforts, my sanctuary. So I can definitely identify with like the crab kind of energy of like, I am very happy, right? I'm happy to be the chariot and be blazing forward with my ideas and things. But then at the end of the day, like I will only do that. I will only be in that horse-drawn chariot for like 1% of things, right? Because you don't want to be blazing into war like all the time. That's not sustainable. Or into, I was going to say the cathedral. That's not it. The Colosseum. That's the real thing I think of. You don't want to just be running in there for anything. Like it's very dangerous and risky. So what are the things that you're really going to put your like energy into if um, you want to? So yeah, I'm just thinking about that. I am going to look in Gabriella Histix, the Goddess of Love Tarot Deck Guidebook for the Hermit and the Chariot to see if there's anything that I kind of missed. So I'll look at the Hermit first. It says it's associated with the goddess Demeter, Virgo. To know the goddess is to know the darkness, the void, the womb, the impenetrable nothingness. This is the dark night of the soul. This is the vision that must be carried out at all costs, no matter how isolating. And this is the path of the hermit. So again, we have that sort of like goddess journey of going into the underworld, right? Into the nothingness, into the woods. And not really being sure how you're going to emerge, right? You're going through the darkness, the mourning, the loneliness. And you're coming out of it, not sure what you're going to come out of it with, but you went in to sort of center and find refuge within the self in that way. And then let's see, it's not the letters, the Chariot is associated with the goddess Freya in this tarot deck. And the astrological correspondence is Cancer. So the Chariot is your vehicle of light, is your transportation. To be guided by the divine force of love within you takes a certain type of surrender. I do very much feel that with the Chariot of like, again, if you're in a horse-drawn chariot and like, usually it's like one horse and you're in like a tiny little cart thing. being pulled by a giant animal that has its own desires. Like, you are surrendering to some extent to what that animal is going to do with you. Like, obviously, you can think you have some control over it, but if a horse gets spooked or something happens, like, they're going to go with their instincts, and they're not really going to care what you want them to do. They also talk about the Chariot is about illuminating when to take the leap of faith, surrendering to the divine timing of the universe. The Chariot also means trusting the body, self-love, and your wildness. The Hebrew word for chariot is Merkava, and the Merkava is a vessel of light that can transport the spirit into different realms of existence. The Chariot ushers you into the realm of the goddess when love and authentic self-expression are your guides. And that is very Cancerian, like, I think of, again, of like the love, the nurturing, the sort of like maternal aspect, like taking care of others, but also like having this sort of like hard shell. Again, if you think of a crab, like, once you penetrate the shell, the crab is very soft on the inside, and sort of like can be vulnerable, but they might be defensive kind of originally. And again, like a chariot, like, is going to look real aggressive coming in. But again, if something spooks a horse or something happens and like they go over a giant bump in the road or things like that, like, you might get taken out the chariot and off your little cart, and like, then you're going to be very vulnerable, right? Then you basically have nothing. The horses run away and you don't have your cart. You're just standing there. So there is this sort of like facade of intensity. But yeah, so those are my like spread here. So I encourage you to, pull your sun card. You can even look across multiple decks, right, at the different sun cards and the different your zodiac sun as like a way to start to dabble in this tarot and astrology. You can always probably Google if like you don't want to rewind and go find the correspondences that I talked about. Also, in this book, they go through every single card, right? Today, I just went through the major arcana cards. Like I said, if you want to find a specific card correspondence, again, you can probably Google it and see what people say. There might not be a particular, like, not everyone will be in agreement, I would say, necessarily. But you can kind of see with the imagery of the cards, even on this like chariot card. Right, we have these like leopards, we have this like vulnerability also in the imagery of this card. We have this opening rose and sort of like sacral chakra energy that's in there. So you might just get like inherent feeling because of what's depicted in the card. Because again, a lot of tarot people that created tarot decks either already knew, study astrology, or are using the associations from the Rider-Waite Smith tarot deck, from kind of that deck that a lot of people pull their structure from. So they might have even used imagery, knowing the correspondences without even maybe necessarily saying it in the tarot deck guidebook or being explicit about it in the imagery in the deck. So you can check that out. And like I said, if you want to look at other correspondences, you can check out all of my, so season 6, 7, 8, and 9, where I went through every suit and I talk about the correspondences in there too. It's just a part of the episode, so you'll have to go through there and find it. But yeah, if you want a specific card correspondence that's not a major arcana card and you can't find it online, you can listen to the episode for that card and get sort of, I go across multiple decks too, so you'll get multiple decks points of view on that card, as well as the astrological correspondence for that card. Well, all right, this has been a long episode today, but it was fun to kind of kick off this tarot and witchcraft season. So I'll be talking about different, like, again, today we talked about tarot and astrology. I'll be talking about different aspects of witchcraft or magic and how they correspond and intertwine with the tarot for this season. I'll link the book and the author's website for Green Tenor that I talked about today. I'll have on my website the images of the cards I talked about. And then, oh yeah, finally, before I end, we have to pull a card. So let's see. It'll be very interesting. Maybe I'll look it up in the book to see what card we correspond to. So let's see here. What do I want to pull from? I'm going to pull from the Facerbito Tarot deck by Stasia Burrington today. All right. I'm going to give that a quick shuffle. One more. Okay. Let's see what card we get. Got the Two of Swords reversed. So let's see. So in this deck guidebook, so reverse, so it depicts a person with swords crossed. Their head is down. It says reversed. It can be about indecision, procrastination, and mental information overload. So maybe you're feeling overwhelmed. I am going to look in the Tarot and Astrology book because now I'm curious for this episode. So the Two of Swords. I'm in a page here. Alright. The Two of Swords is associated with the moon in Libra. It says we first meet the moon in the guise of the high priestess, a lunar goddess, and a guide to hidden mysteries. When she steps in to serve as sub-ruler of Libra, she merges with Justice, the archetypal goddess assigned to the sign of balance and equanimity. Most renditions of the card feature a young woman seated alone on a shoreline contemplating a difficult choice between two extremes. Let's see, Libra is an air sign. Without the influence of the moon, she might seem detached from the watery, emotional side of the issue. The moon, however, connects her to the emotional realm. The Golden Dawn designers of this card called the moon in Libra the Lord of Peace Restored, because the moon graces Libra with the gift of reflection, acceptance, and understanding. Let's see if there's anything else in here. Libra is ruled by Venus, the planet of love and affection. In tarot, Venus corresponds to the Empress. All right, yeah, and the Two of Swords usually symbolizes a difficult decision or choice between two paths. Again, I did pull it in reverse, so right now it's feeling like, okay, that choice is feeling challenging, or maybe there's some procrastination going on, or just kind of feeling overwhelmed and not sure where to start. So, interesting things today. All right. Well, links for the tarot decks I talk about will always be in the show notes and on my website if you'd like to look at them or purchase them. And thanks for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. Just as a reminder, the podcast comes out daily, Monday through Friday for all of 2025. You can email me, me@CamilleASaunders.com with your thoughts, questions, and more. And see you soon. Bye-bye.